What's up, Brandon?
Not much, you guys?
Just getting set up. Look at the friggin' Saucony boxes behind you.
Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous, isn't
Like,
it?
is that real? They send you a pair of shoes in every one of those boxes?
Yeah, plus there's like all those too.
Man,
Yeah,
that's what happens when you're a good runner, eh?
I wouldn't say great, but I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah,
It's a nice perk for sure.
yeah. Thanks for joining me, guys. This is awesome. This is the first time I've had
Yeah,
two people on a podcast. Well, three, but
well,
Thank you for
amazing.
having us.
Yeah,
100%.
thanks.
Yeah, so I know Brandon, you have a little bit more of a tight time frame, right? So
Yeah,
um
especially now. I missed work this morning. I woke up with a migraine and I had to stay in bed all morning. It was the worst.
and you made this happen.
Yeah. Well, I had to go to the chiropractor, so I missed the last couple days. So I was
Okay.
like, I gotta get out of bed.
Okay, man. Well, I appreciate that. Like, props. This
Yeah,
is
no problem.
part of what I want to get into is you guys have both had some pretty crazy fitness journeys, but I want to talk about running first. So you guys are both, I would consider you guys both avid runners. Like that's part of the reason I chose you both for this episode. You're both based out of Peterborough right now, and you've both done multiple crazy runs, whether it's kind of solo or in a group or in a race. Brandon, I'm going to start with you just because you might be a little bit more pressed for time, but tell me about this TTC run.
Yeah, so I had been thinking about something to do for like the past year, especially in the first lockdown. So I was gonna do an ultra marathon running around a circle for 50K, but it ended up being like minus 35 that day, so I just scrapped it until this year. And a guy approached me that I knew from Saucony, and he asked me if I wanted to do the TTC challenge. But then he said, "Do you want to do it in full?" Which was 101 kilometers. I'm like, "Yeah, sure, might as well," because I was looking for, like I said, a way to raise money, and I figured I might as well do it for two of my friends that passed away over the past year, and
Right.
so we did it. We decided to do it. We were doing it on no training because we were like, they didn't have any training, or not training, sorry, they didn't have any time to prepare for their diagnosis, so I was like, might as well just do it like that. And so we went out there and did it. We got 73 kilometers out of the way, and so I mean that's a huge accomplishment, like going on no training. So it was pretty fun, but I don't recommend ever running downtown Toronto with cars zooming past you and all on concrete. It hurts so bad.
Yeah, dude, that's pretty intense, right? So you're talking about the concrete, just the amount of impact for that long, right?
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
weather, right? It was still pretty cold. It was in the winter. It was just what, a month or two ago?
yeah. It was at the start of December, so it was fairly cold.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
when I first heard that challenge, I'm like, are these guys going to be running through like the subway tunnels for 100K? I was like, how
that would have
nervous.
been kind of cool.
It would have been cool. It would have been like pretty much a sensory deprived, providing there's no subways coming. Clearly that's not what we're after, but was
Yeah.
that your most intense run to date?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Especially going on no training. Like at least like the two marathons I've done, I've trained for them,
Yeah.
but like I had no idea what to expect for this.
So beyond the 42K, did you go from 42 to 73 or 74, you said?
Yeah, pretty much. The farthest I got within the 2 weeks of training that I did was 33K. And that was like coming off running nothing before that.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. That's a big jump, and that's tough. Julia, you're not um, one to shy away from long distances too. I know. Is your longest distance 100K in your own training?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, it happened during like the first really long lockdown of the pandemic. I always kind of ran long distance anyway. But then I just started like really going really hard, like just like casual 50-kilometer runs, casual, like really long runs. And then I kind of just got to it kind of gets addicting to a certain point, and I was really pushing myself, and it just feels so good. And I was like, you know what, I just want to push my limits and just straight go for 100. I think the longest I did before I went to 100 was like 70 something, just normal. And then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna, if I can get to that, I'll just push through the last little bit and get to 100. But yeah, I just kind of did it on my own. Basically, I went from Peterborough, where I live, near Trent area, to Belleville, on the Trans-Canada Trail the whole way. So it wasn't hard concrete the whole way. Some of it is, some of it's really rocky. It was a bit mixed terrain the whole time. Starting like pretty early by myself, like 6 a.m. and finishing around dinner time. So it was about 9 hours long. And my parents basically just every couple hours, so like every like 20 kilometers or so, they were like posted at one of the spots on the Trans-Canada Trail. I didn't really need to eat much though, so they just had like freezies and water and anything if I needed. But yeah, it was pretty challenging, but I was kind of crazy at that time anyway, so it wasn't like, I'm not gonna lie and say it was like it was hard, but I was like, oh, it's okay. But now if I did that, like, because I haven't been training like that, I would it would hurt a lot more now. But at that time I was doing crazy runs anyway, so it was just like, oh, whatever. But yeah.
So that was just in your own training and you just felt like you wanted to do that?
Yeah, it was kind of just like, lockdown. I wasn't doing anything really, and like I said, it kind of just got addicting to the point where I was like, let me see how much farther I can go, let me push myself a bit more, and it just feels so rewarding like after the fact. So I think that's what I was running after, was that like accomplished feeling after. Right. Like, okay, if I can do that, like whatever life brings at me, like I can kind of do that, like I did something so hard. So
right. So do you guys Brandon, I'll start with you first. Did I call you Brett at the beginning of the podcast, by the way?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. I get everything. So
I want to call you Brandon because I know who you are and I know your name. Yeah. So I'm like, did I fucking call you the wrong name? Anyway, Brandon.
Yeah.
Do you use running as kind of like a self-confidence boost, as like something where you can tackle it and then be like, see, Brandon, like I can do this?
Sometimes, like lately I've been kind of struggling because I gained 30 pounds over the past year. Like I fell back into some binge eating habits. So lately it's been like such a struggle where like, I know I can do this, but like, I'm not to where I am. So I just kept working at it. And then like, I think last Thursday, like one of our workouts, it finally all clicked together. And that was kind of what you said there. It's like, it all just came together and it's just like, it was like, yeah, you can just like keep working and then get that self-confidence boost back. And it's definitely something that I do use to uplift my mood and sometimes just like push that mental limit. So you can sometimes bring a bad day to a good one, but yeah, totally.
Now, do you do that as well, Julia, or does that sound sort of non-familiar? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to Brendan for sharing about the binge eating and the gaining weight, because I know me and his stories are very different, obviously, but very similar also, as we both lost a lot of weight. So I think we both struggle with kind of balancing like, oh, is the run gonna help me lose weight, or is it actually for my mental health? Like sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I do it because I'm like, okay, I need to be moving, I get scared about gaining weight. Like it's something that you're scared of when you have lost a lot of weight. Well, I personally, I do have a fear of gaining it back. So obviously I want to run and it's helped me lose weight and I want to keep fit and yada yada, but at the same time, like I said, the mental health benefits that it's given me, you can't dismiss it. Like it makes you feel unstoppable almost when you're finished a good run. I mean, they're not always unstoppable runs, but I mean you feel like just better mentally, period. Like you can't dismiss that fact. But
What were you going to say, Brandon?
Yeah, like gaining weight is always like in the back of your mind, like once
Mhm.
you've gone through it a couple times, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you feel like, yeah, I mean, coming from someone that hasn't lost a lot of weight, do you guys feel like it's, it's of great benefit to have something like running, or do you feel like you could fall into this kind of mindset with any type of training? Like, do you think running is special to you guys, or could it just as easily be, powerlifting or strength training or CrossFit or yoga or whatever the fuck?
Yeah, I think it could be anything, to be honest. Like it's whatever you enjoy. Like I used to put myself through like workouts where like I was like, oh, I have to burn a certain amount of calories. And then I was like, that's like so bad for my mental health. So for
Yeah.
me, it's just I enjoy running. So it's like something that I can apply that to. I'm not sure if you think the same thing.
Well, like, yeah, I think a lot, I mean, anything physical fitness, I'm a big proponent of. Anything that gets you moving could be an outlet for you. Specifically running helped me lose a lot of weight because there's no denying the fact that it's a lot of cardio. It does burn a lot of calories. But like, in that same sense that you were saying, like running, I feel a lot more enjoyable than like, oh my god, I'm just gonna do a hit workout for a whole hour, like jump squats and da 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 da. Like, no thank you. Like, I'd rather just go for a run, get my mind clear. The nature aspect of it as well outside is a big thing as well. You normally probably wouldn't go outside, really, like maybe like a nice like stroll, but like it really gets you out there. I've seen lots of Peterborough and lots of surrounding areas that I would have never discovered or known. Trail running is a whole nother aspect that way. Like, you just feel connected with the nature, the fresh air, everything. So I don't know, there is a different sense to running than I think other, you know, sports. I'm also obviously, both of us in the weightlifting community as well, and it's just a different kind of vibe. Every little community is a different outlet and vibe. And yeah, I think the running community, we all kind of have something that drives us or started us running, and what keeps the passion, and why we love it. So I think that's really special.
So
Yeah.
Julia, what got you into running? Because you could have chose all sorts of stuff, and you do you're doing weight training, you're doing strength training, you do cross training,
Yeah.
maybe some other stuff as well. But why did you choose running?
Honestly, I did. I kind of always did running when I was growing up. Like, I accumulated a lot of my weight in a very short period of time, so I was quite athletic, like in my high school and growing up. And then like I said, really gained a lot of weight in a short span of time, maybe about 2-3 years. And then I really wasn't athletic at all in that span, obviously. And I didn't really know much else. Like, I didn't know strength training at that time. I was more into like soccer and like sportsy stuff before. So I knew like running's good for you or whatever, right? And I didn't really have like, I'm just at my house. I'm scared to go to the gym. I was scared at first. I don't know what I'm doing with the weights. And then also, I don't really want to go buy a bunch of stuff for my workouts at home if I don't even know what I'm doing either. So I think running is like something to just start, which is great, that like you can go as long as you want. You can go without, like, you just need running shoes, which a lot of people already have. I mean, obviously if you're doing snow running and other things, you need more equipment, but mainly you just don't need to go purchase like a bench or anything, so
Yeah.
in that aspect it's cheap, and then also it's not intimidating. To be honest, I was intimidated to go to the gym. When I'm going for a run outside, I'm just by myself. If I fall, like, cool, someone in a car sees me, but like, anyway, basically, to answer your question, I would say I just started running down the street, literally. Like, I was like, well, I need to be moving, I need to start somewhere. I'd run down the street, get super winded, was like, oh my god, just make it to the fire hydrant, just make it to the tree, just anything. And then I'd come home, whatever, get up to like 5K. When I got to 5K, I was like, oh my god, like, I'm super sick with it, like, da 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 da. And then I just kept going up in my mileage, and then I found out, like, I'm a good long distance runner. I'm a good at pacing myself. Like, I'm not good at fast distance. Like, anyone could smoke me in sprinting, but I found I'm pretty good at it. So, sorry, I go on a tangent, but I think that answers.
No, it does. And I got to challenge you on that because at one point I called you out on this too, because you posted a 4:16 mile at one point. And I was like, 4:16. I'm like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to be training somewhere else if you're doing that. So like, is that accurate, or was that like a glitch in
No.
like straight up? Cause that's a really fast mile.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what the apps were saying I was doing. I can usually go pretty fast in the beginning of the run if I know it's not like an ultra marathon. So yeah, at a certain point, I'm not at that right now, definitely not. But I was, yeah, could do pretty fast miles. But like I said, I don't think I'm a sprinter by any means, or that's my strength, like speed wise, but endurance wise, yes. But yeah, when you were actually calling me out on that, I was really consistently working on speeding up my runs at that time. So that's what the apps are saying. I use Nike Run Club app and Strava and my Fitbit. So don't know if sometimes they do glitch or the accuracy, but pretty consistently, 4 or 5 minute miles. I don't know. Brendan's pretty fast too. I saw his times on his Instagram. I don't know. It's hard to believe, but capable.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying that's next level. If you're doing that, that's absolutely next level.
Yeah.
Brandon, where are you at? Let's reverse this. So what's your fastest mile, Brandon? Because I've challenged you to a really stupid workout before where we were going to do like assault bike and running. And I was like, yeah, man, I don't know how I'm going to beat this guy. Like I probably will not beat this guy, but like,
you could probably beat me on the bike.
Well, yeah, but
yeah,
that's why there's two. Cause then I'm like, but then I train on a bike now. So I'm on a bike where you guys are running.
My fastest mile was 5:24. It was with runners life group at the track, middle of summer, so hot, like you're just dying. Yeah. So that was probably my fastest mile, the only one I've ever raced like that. So yeah. And it's a goal to be sub 5.
That's a good pace too. That's I think that's one of the worst distance runs ever.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's fucking brutal. Which is really interesting because you guys have probably had this conversation too, because people follow you guys in for different reasons for different things. But I had this conversation with a guy I met out in Victoria. He's into some CrossFit stuff, and my thought was like, the hardest training is when it's just longer. Like for me, I've done some powerlifting. I did amateur strongman competitions. I did CrossFit at a decently high level. Like I almost made it to regionals. I wouldn't make it there now, but and then I've done some ultra marathons. It's like whatever's longer is harder because it's just more time where you're batting around in your head, this internal conversation. You have more time to stop. You have more time to continue, but you have way more opportunity to give up and stop and check out, or, whatever it is. Like, is that, it's a huge mental game for sure.
Yeah. So the big challenge of the ultras is not even like your body can, I mean, it hurts, but your body can do it in hindsight. Like you're able to, but it's just, do I want to? Not really. Slight injuries, yada yada, obviously, but I think when I got to like the 80 kilometer range in my 100-kilometer run, like I was in like a dark place mentally. Like I was literally like just running in the forest, and I was like, I actually don't know if I can do this. Like every movement was like so hard. Like I was like, oh my God, like my songs weren't even helping anymore. I was like, this song is depressing. Like everything sucked. But like, then I don't know, you pull out of it, and then, you're like, okay, I only have like 3 kilometers left. Like I can do it. Like, so I think mentally it's just these humps and stuff that you have to get over. But I think that actually really has helped me with my mental aspects of in life as well. So so
you're saying getting through the long distance runs, like putting yourself in those scenarios to have that internal dialogue has helped you in other situations?
Right.
Brandon, why did you get into running?
So I was in a 2-year plateau of my weight loss where the first couple of years I lost 60 pounds, gained it back, lost it, gained it back. And then I finally had ankle surgery, had lost 60 pounds again, gained it back for the third time. And so I started again after I was out of bed, and I lost 100 pounds super quickly and then hit a 2-year plateau. And the girl I was dating at the time was training for a half marathon. And I'm like, well, if she can do it, like I can do it. So I jumped on the treadmill and I couldn't even run 100 meters. So I was like, this is the worst thing ever. So I was like, I can't like not continue and try on this. So I got to like, I started setting small goals where I was like 100 meters, 1K, 5K, and then just kind of built up from there. And so it just happened by chance that I got into it, that she was training. And then the way I got into actual racing was I was walking back into my office one day at work and I heard my name on Country 105 and I was like, oh, I wonder what the heck that was. So I called into the radio station. They're like, you've won a entry fee into the half marathon coming up in a few weeks. I'm like, is this a death wish?
Yeah.
So I was like, and I'm like to myself, I'm like, well, I don't know if I don't try. So I just kind of signed up for it. And the girl at the front desk knew me. And she's like, are you sure you want to do the half? Like, I can put you in the 10K. I'm like, no, I'll do the half. And I ended up going out there and I couldn't believe my time still. Like, I ran an hour 34 for my first half. And
Nice.
like, I had no idea what I was doing. So I was running on pure adrenaline. I had no water, no gels. And once I crossed the finish line, I just fully cramped and just like it all just ended. And I'm like, I'll maybe do one of those again. And I'm like, but I'll never do a full marathon. And then next thing you know, did a full marathon. And then I said after that, I'd never do a ultra. And then here we are this year. I'm like, oh,
Right.
did an ultra. So it's just funny how things.
Yeah. How things kind of flow like that. Yeah. What I think is really interesting about running too is like talking with clients and myself too. Like I'm really similar to you guys with running. I don't know if I love it, but I'm certainly not one of those people that says they hate running and runs. Like I think truly, if you hate running, maybe try something different. Like you don't need to hate what you exercise with, right? Yeah. That's a common narrative. Like there's fucking merch with running socks on it. It's like, well, just don't run then, man. Do something different. Like, you don't have to grind and everything.
I think there's going to be days too. Like even if you love running, you're going to hate it. Like some days, like, and that's like with any sport.
Yeah. And that's where discipline comes in, right? It's like, well, what's, zooming out, looking at the greater goal and going from there essentially. So I know you guys don't just run. What's your, Brandon, I'll start with you. What's your training routine? You can tell me what your training routine is like maybe lately, because I know it changed with all of us. It changes depending on what we're doing.
Yeah. So lately it's been, so I kind of dialed it back this year a little bit because I was ending up like I was feeling really fatigued by the end of this past year because I started off so hot last year. I kind of just burnt out. So lately it's been, I think, 3 or 4 days per week of strength training, and then a couple days on the spin bike, and then 6 days of running.
Right.
So, and then with a full day off on Fridays.
So you're doing at least some double days, 6 days a week.
Yeah. Usually pretty much every day has like something double. Right. I like to jump on the bike, especially now after like a tough workout, just to like spin out the legs a little bit. And I've been finding that it helps the next morning where I don't feel as tired. So that's been a nice addition.
Yeah. Well, that's cool you're saying that, because I know a lot of people that are going to listen or watch this are definitely into running, whether they're beginner or they're ultra. And I can say too, like I think probably the two most overlooked aspects of training are the warm up and cool down. Like we're all guilty of skipping a warm up. We're like, whatever, I'll just get into it. And the cool down too, like doing, having an aerobic cardio piece at the end of a training session has huge implications for improving your recovery and blood flow and oxygen uptake and all that kind of stuff. Right.
Yeah.
Julia, what's your training kind of been like lately? And by the way, guys, like I want this to be like the anti-social media conversation. Like this doesn't need to be like, what's the sexiest shit you guys do? Right. Like, I want to talk
Yeah.
about struggles too.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, Julie, where are you at? It might just end up that you guys have really great training programs lately though.
well, Brennan's like, that's like his dialed down one. That's impressive. That's intense for dialed down. But yeah, I used to be a lot more crazy with my running than I am right now, simply because I don't know if we really want to get into that, but I think I almost had overtraining syndrome because I was pushing myself so many ultras like in literally like 1 month. Like you're supposed to like, if I was doing that for like a client, because I'm a personal trainer at Good Life, but if I was doing that for a client, like I would be like, you need to recover like at least a month. And I was just like, let's just keep going, like, so I almost got like kind of like depressed about running, which is like, I love it. So obviously I knew something was like wrong psychologically. That was almost like my body telling me like, if you don't stop, like we're gonna make you stop. But so yeah, I basically like got IT band syndrome in my knees really bad. It was really painful to run. I was like, I want to run, but like I'm feeling really depressed about running, almost like my body was like, we're going to be in pain if we start running, so why are you going, like basically telling me to stop. So I stopped finally, kind of didn't really have a choice. And I got super into just weightlifting from, I think, last summer into about now. And only recently I'm starting back on my training regimen for running and strength mixed. And kind of just depends on, to be honest, my schedule with training clients. I know you would know, Josh, but at Good Life, it kind of goes with other people's schedules. So I might have someone like at like 7 a.m. in the morning one day, and then happen to have like a hour break. So, and then, split shifts. So if I have like an hour break or something at the gym, then I'll just do like a 10-kilometer run, because usually a 10-kilometer on the treadmill takes about an hour. So it really depends on that. But before the lockdown that just happened, I was trying to do at least 60 kilometers in the week. So whether that was 6 10-kilometer runs or 2 20-kilometer runs, spread out, if that makes sense. And then obviously I do like a split, so like legs, upper body, etc., just with the strength training in the gym there. Right now with the lockdown, I'm basically trying to, because I don't have a treadmill, and I did run all through the winter last winter, and I'm kind of scared about doing it in this weather that's really, really cold right now. So I'm kind of haven't been running outside or on a treadmill since I don't have access right now. So been just strength training during this lockdown, this last week or two lockdown, just strength training.
Yeah, just
really wanting to run really bad right now, but hoping that the treadmill opens. If not, hoping the weather isn't -20 every day.
Yeah, that's fair. You have some sort of tougher stuff to work against. I want to jump into, we've kind of named it. You guys have both had like pretty big, not like pretty big. You guys have both had really, really profound like physical changes with weight loss. You don't need to name that. You can if you want. But what happened mentally with so Brandon, I'll start with you if this is cool. So, you used to be X and now you're this version of Brandon. What do you think changed mentally for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I initially got to like my goal weight, which was 200 pounds, I was like not even that happy. I'm like, I don't look like the way that I thought I should, because going through that journey, I kind of didn't focus at all on like the mental side of things. I kind of just focused on the physical and just like checking off the goals of like my, and like just weight wise. And so it took a few years, but like I started to actually learn to actually like myself and like everything that came along with it, including like the loose skin and like stretch marks. And that was a complete process, because I was very uncomfortable still in the skin I was in. And that there was like a shift one time where I was just like, you know what, even if I look this way, like I've come so far, and it's like a process that I enjoyed, and I've created a new lifestyle for myself. So along with that, like I started journaling, and like I took this course where I was like talking to myself in the mirror. It's like you put yourself in a comfortable position for like 33 minutes a day. And so mentally it's just like I've come to like see that we can like do anything that we put our minds to, but we just have to stick with it. And if you stick with it during like the good or bad times, you're going to find out a lot about yourself. And so mentally the shift just been like learning to actually like myself instead of like trying to fit in like I was trying to grow up, and just kind of knowing that I'm more mentally tough and more sound than I was before when I started.
And like, what did you actually, like, looking back now, there's probably things that you were intentionally trying to do that did work, and then maybe some things that didn't work so well for you. But what are some actual examples of what you practiced to like yourself more?
So like I said, that journaling course was like trying to find out like what deep down that you actually liked about yourself. So like you would be put in a spot where like you had to film yourself standing in the mirror talking to yourself and just like saying nice things about yourself. And it was kind of weird at first, but then you actually just kind of figure out like, oh, you don't have to be so harsh on yourself. And like there is like, of course there's going to be parts of yourself that you might not always like, and that's going to be might not be for everybody, but um it's just something where like I don't know what like the turning point was, but just like one day I just kind of woke up and just had like a new outlook on things.
Hmm.
And I think it might have just been all the practice leading up to that, and could have been
And
that, not sure.
so journaling for sure was something that you would say this did help in some way.
Yeah, exactly. It's not something I do every day, but at least a couple times a week, and you kind of start to see patterns in that, and then you can kind of just go from there.
Hmm. What was the journaling course you took?
It was called 33 and 33. So it was 33 straight days of 33 minutes.
Yeah.
And so it actually happened after a breakup. And so 33 is my favorite number. And I was invited by Lululemon to a community workshop. And it was like the same weekend as the breakup. And so I went, and this guy was speaking. He started talking about his course. I'm like, well, that's my favorite number. I'm like, I've always wanted to take my mental health a bit more seriously. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to sign up for it. And it ended
Right.
up being a complete and total game changer. And it's kind of the thing that actually propelled me forward, including with the breakup, because before I was like really shy and when like I wouldn't even accept to come on here. Like I was like very shy, I wouldn't talk about my journey. I would write about it, but I wouldn't talk about it. And so I
Hmm.
kind of used that to like springboard myself into like going on TikTok and doing those lives and talking to people on there. So it was just a kind of profound change in my whole life was, and that was kind of the turning point.
Cool,
Good
man.
for you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
I can give you a huge kudos too, but I can also just say, like, I really enjoy your social media. Like, it's
Appreciate
really
that.
it's great. Like, it's inspiring, and it's great.
Yeah,
Um,
I
yeah.
try to do it not like such a pushy way. Like I don't want to like everybody's gonna be different. So I just kind of just try to share my ups and downs and just keep it real so people can relate to it. And it's
Yeah,
kind of
totally.
neat to hear you guys say that. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think it's great. Part of community is, pulling people up, obviously, and we don't have to be connected directly. We don't have to be a part of the same groups in any way, just to
No.
feel like I know that you posted about a guy on TikTok who's going through a weight loss journey right now, and I started following him, and like, that's great, right? It's like, I think when you start to get comfortable with yourself, you start to get comfortable with other people making positive change,
Yeah.
potentially doing things, better or differently than you. And I think you start to see that as just positive versus, competitive, or versus, not being, not taking it personally. Essentially, it's about
Yeah.
them. Yeah, you should join Runner's Life, Julia, if you want like some type of camaraderie.
Yeah, a lot of people I
Right there.
can't relate with because I'll be like a lot of my friends are the gym friends, like the weightlifting people at the gym, and then I'm just like, yeah, just gonna go hop on for a half marathon, and they're just like, what? And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's legit, right? Like that's totally what happens. I mean, run unless you run, it's pretty hard to relate to that. You're like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
You're just gonna keep going for like a really long time and you're gonna like maybe ignore symptoms in your body and like that's crazy, right?
Yeah. And a lot of people,
Correct.
a lot of weightlifters, they don't they neglect their cardio. Even though they work out a lot, they just don't do cardio at all. Which is a shame because I think it's good to have a balance of both, but a lot of people I think are just scared of it.
Scared of running or scared of like going long
Cardio as a
distances?
whole.
Cardio, yeah. That's yeah, maybe.
I know a lot of
Um,
people who just don't add any cardio into any of their training at all. Um, Especially if you're scared of like if you're someone who wants to gain muscle mass, then you are like, oh, I don't need to do any cardio at all, but it makes a good, I mean, you don't have to go do half marathons, but I mean a little bit of cardio training is always going to help you in any other aspect, help you weightlift longer, help you just stay up longer during the day, everything, your cardio better. So I think people
yeah,
just don't see it that way. They just say, well, I'm going to lose weight, so why would I do it, like,
right.
kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that can be kind of a limiting belief, eh? I think like even what you guys are saying, like if you're just, running to burn calories, it's like that's kind of narrow. Like you're gonna pigeonhole yourself eventually. Whereas you just sort of stay, or eventually maybe get to a point where you're sort of seeing multiple benefits. It's starts
Mhm.
to be a way more impactful thing.
Yep.
Um, Julia, so again, you've had a really big transformation. You've touched on this, and so this is the anti-social media. It's really great to see a before and after picture, and I know that too because I post clients,
Mhm.
and that's the tough part. Is it's really hard to do a before and after of me doing this and
Oh,
being like,
yeah.
yeah, but everything in my head's changed, or
Oh, yeah.
like it's actually a big regression. I'm having a harder time, but I've been trying to work on these things. So
Mhm.
what are some kind of real changes that you have noticed mentally?
Yeah. Um, I've honestly done a complete 360-degree in my life, from the weight that I feel like the fitness and health and the weight loss just skyrocketed, because my specific journey on why I kind of started or why I gained a lot of weight in the first place. I was abusing alcohol. I would label myself an alcoholic. I never got diagnosed or anything, but I was drinking every day. I was just harming myself, really just using substances and food as a way to cope with my mental health. I was in an abusive relationship, and I was just suicidal, self-harming, the whole bit. And just because of this abusive relationship, I kind of just was like, well, I want to die because I just got beat up, but at least I can like order a pizza or something, and the pizza tastes good, and that will make me happy for like 10 minutes or whatever. And I was kind of just like using that as like my sole like happiness was like food. That was like driving me, oh, I can go to work, but at least I get to eat. Anyway, that's how I got pretty gained a significant amount of weight, and I obviously was in a dark place. And then I got into an even darker place because then you see your body and you don't understand why your body is so big and you're gaining weight and you don't like what you see, and it's a whole nother thing to make your mental health bad. So then when I started losing the weight and I started my journey, which is still ongoing, I would say that eventually I stopped wanting to drink, and that was never the plan in the first place. But I realized that first of all, the calories in the liquor and stuff, I would rather eat because I was started paying attention to what I was eating and yada yada, and I realized, oh, I could just eat like 3 chocolate bars, or I could have like 3 shots. I'd rather, you know, if I have that, if I could eat that, I would rather eat it anyway. So and then I realized I couldn't really work out that well the next day after I was like hungover or anything. So I slowly was able to stop drinking, and I'm fully sober now. So that was a big change, definitely. And then you know, my mental health wise and body image wise, I started feeling like I could dress how I wanted to. I always just before wore like baggy sweatpants because that's like literally the only thing I could wear. I had to do the plus size stuff at Walmart, and I had to oftentimes wear boy pants and stuff because I couldn't fit girl pants on me. I don't know. Sometimes had to wear like pregnancy clothes as well, even though I wasn't pregnant. So that was all really embarrassing, but I like to think I have a nice fashion sense. So now I was like, oh, like I actually can like dress how I want, which made me in turn feel really confident. I started getting into makeup and being like, oh, actually like think my face is nice, instead of just like, oh, I just want to put a bag over my head. So that really changed. And then with the confidence, I felt like I was able to now not fall into another abusive relationship, which I know it's hard to like understand, but I felt like now I won't, because before I was almost like accepting the abuse because I was like, well, I'm ugly and fat anyway, like I'm not, you know, this is just how my life's gonna be. I'm lucky to be with this guy anyway, so if he's hitting me, like whatever. But now with the confidence and the weight loss and the whole running journey, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna stand for anyone, period, treating me badly. I'm going to, you know, be that girl. So, you know, that's I think answers the question. I have a lot to say, so
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that. That's a lot. That's like,
Same.
yeah,
Thank
right.
you.
Like it feels it's like a super strong dichotomy hearing something like that, because you're like, you know, it goes on and people are experiencing this stuff. And as much as, you know, you hear it, like me hearing that, I'm like, holy fuck. And then I'm also like, wow, I appreciate you being like brave and vulnerable. I see it as being brave. And I see it from you speaking of a place of like acceptance of like, that's where it was and that's not where I am now. And
well, I'm also still embarrassed about it. I won't lie. Like I don't like posting my before and afters because I literally don't want that photo of me being bigger out there. Like I know a lot of people, they're like, who have weight loss, like they're totally okay with that and kind of stuff. But like I honestly, like I always struggle if I show someone like how I was before or whatever, because I really like haven't, I still, like you said, I've accepted it, but at the same time, like I'm like, I can't believe that was me. Like, and obviously body dysmorphia is a big thing, and I still don't even really understand what my body's doing right now. So when I see my body back then, I'm like, whoa. And then when I see my body like pretty lean and like strong, I'm like, whoa, that's not me either. So it's like I guess what I'm saying is it's embarrassing sharing your story, but that's what makes it brave, like you were saying, like because it's like, no, it needs to be said so that other people feel more comfortable, so other people know it can be done, so other people know they're not alone, and anything's really possible when you put your mind to it. But yeah, it's not sexy, it's not you know, something that I mean, I'm proud that I lost the weight, but it's still, you know, I don't know what I'm saying. I think you guys get my gist. I think I'm proud of Brendan as well, sharing his vulnerable sides, because he has quite a large social media following, a lot more than I do. And the people that you can reach by just saying, you know, I did like, even that you just said, I struggle with binge eating, like that makes me not makes me feel better, but it's like, wow, he's someone so cool and yada yada, like I look up to you and you're still struggling and you're still on your ongoing journey, and like you said, you gained a little weight. Like it's a journey, it doesn't stop ever. Like I really like the quote, it's not a fitness journey, it's a fitness journey, not a fitness destination. So you don't just get to a spot and you're like, I'm this now, like you're on, it's a ongoing. So
yeah, it's a good quote.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's friggin', that's meant. I agree with that too. I actually have this picture right here. I've been working on this sort of concept let's see if you guys can see it. This is so this is just this was, by the way, this was the stock picture in the frame. I bought it from a dollar store. I'm like, man, that's a better picture than I would have found. I
Yeah.
literally put like, there's a little X at the top, and that's the target, or
Yeah.
that's the goal, right? X marks the spot, like that's the end
Yeah.
point. But like clearly the X is such a small part of what the actual journey is,
Oh yeah.
that
Yeah.
I started thinking of it as, you know, pretty much like the end point is like a data point, just like any other time you would do anything. So a data point could be like each workout you do, or each time you eat, or each moment of self-talk, whether it be positive or negative or whatever, like, and they're all data points. So we may like do a before and an after, and that's kind of what fits into social media. And I'm going to say, like, unfortunately, because there's a lot of other things that people miss, and it does distort a real kind of, it sort of distorts the reality of how complex something like a weight loss journey could be for someone.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, what do you think about that, Brandon?
I kind of like saying before and current instead of before and after, because
Yeah.
because like Julia said, like you're still like, it's ongoing, and like the picture's not going to tell you everything like we were talking about. So I kind of like the concept of before and current, because there's going to be peaks and valleys no matter where you are. And I think this kind of relates back to running, because when they always talk about like the race being like the end goal, but like when you're on the journey there, I think that's all the fun stuff, and like the race is just kind of like the cherry on top of all the training that you did to get there. So I think that's kind of how I look at things.
Yeah, that's super, that's fair. It seems like we all have kind of similar outlooks, in that we're not, you know, we don't put a larger importance on this kind of like current or after. It's just a part of it, another part of it, just like before is, or just like the day after.
Just
like,
another chapter.
Yeah, essentially. And that's really cool about the race thing too. It's yeah, I often talk to clients about the difference between testing and training. And testing, I would relate to like a competition, right? Whether you're actually doing the marathon. And this is more of a training kind of thought, but you don't, my thought is that you don't always want to be testing. Like you need to be training a lot more than you're testing. So there needs to be times where you're under your RPE, or you're just putting in the practice, like you're trying to groove the pattern of whether it's positive self-talk or like improving aerobic capacity. And I feel like when we're like constantly or continuously testing ourselves, I think it's kind of dangerous. I think we can kind of get into like physiological issues, like you're kind of talking about. You sort of mentioned maybe not adrenal fatigue, Julia, but you mentioned overtraining or overreaching. It kind of depends on, it's hard to know. I mean, there's some biomarkers, but I don't test those. I think for people listening to this that are kind of getting into maybe exercise or journeys, all three of us have pretty extreme things that we do in our training, or maybe even our daily life, that would not be very would probably be like way too much for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I think I just want to sort of, I just want to put a grain of salt in that's to say, like, for people listening to this, it's good to get inspired, and it's good to show, like, no matter if you're at, you know, Julia's level or Brandon's level, or whatever my level is, like, it's truly people that are on these journeys are really supportive too. And it doesn't matter. Like, it's not about comparing at all.
No.
Like it really doesn't matter. You might use that as a bit of inspiration, but when you're on your right path, you know that you're on your path, right?
Yeah. I wrote on my post the other night, it was like, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10, because you don't really know what they've gone through, both physically and mentally. So that's, the comparison game can be dangerous, but you can use like someone else's story definitely as a springboard.
Yeah. That's a good way to say it. Yeah. What do they say? Comparison is the thief of joy. So
yeah,
I agree with that. I know anytime I've gotten into times in my life where I was like really being like, shit, I'm not doing enough, it's never been about me. It's always been about someone else. and it's like it never actually works. It's always like it's sort of just a waste of time, and then I end up getting back to where I actually want to focus and spend my time. Brandon, what do you find challenging mentally right now?
Definitely the weight that I've carried on from late last year, because it's like something where like I know I can run through it. I've done it before, but then I'm also thinking back to where I was before that and like how easy and free flowing running felt. So mentally, it's just been like such a hurdle to kind of like push myself to continue to go when I'm not at like the speeds that I used to be at. So I've just been trying to fight through that and just kind of work my way into finding like peace again, because I started this year. I'm like, I'm just going to start fresh again. I usually don't wait till like the new year, but for some reason I just kind of started fresh this year and kind of just went back and tried to find little habits that helped me before, to get to where I was. So that's probably the most mentally tough thing that's draining me right now, but it is what it is. I can't really go back and change that. I just got to start where I am. So that's what I did.
You say like start off in January, but you literally did like the longest race you've ever done like a couple weeks before that.
Yeah, in February or in December.
Remember, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I took some time off after that. And it's just like that was draining too. Like, and then like I was like, oh, in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, if I didn't gain all that weight, could I have gone farther? Like, but it is what it is. What it is. I think that's a good saying sometimes.
It is what I know.
Yeah.
Julia, do you have anything that you're kind of struggling with mentally right now, whether it's new challenges or, reoccurring challenges?
Yeah, a few things actually. I mean, we're in literally a pandemic, so that's pretty challenging. So just the constant changes and uncertainty of the world is just mentally exhausting and challenging. As well as, I actually have gained a bit of weight as well. Obviously not going to be as lean as I was when I was running, when I was basically overtraining myself in the ultramarathons. That was my leanest. And I liked my body then. And then like I said, you're comparing your body from when you're overtraining and that's not sustainable to me now, where I'm physically literally not doing that. So it's hard like not to look back on that, and like the mind games play in your head, like, why did I let myself gain this weight, yada yada. But I think that's just the thing with people who have lost a lot of weight and gain, and it's always kind of just like did I do this right? It's always like it's something you're gonna have to work through, like, and work on constantly, which is just like literally really draining, to be honest. And the body dysmorphia aspect of it, for me is pretty hard. I literally sometimes like think I look in the mirror and that I've gained so much weight like over just like one day, and I know I physically like I am a personal trainer too, so I know the science aspect of it, of how weight works and how it's not possible to do that, but it still doesn't, like, it's still in your head sometimes. Struggled with eating disorders, so it's also psychological. So yeah, thinking of like just trying to accept the body as it is now, and that, I can't really control that the gyms are closed. I can't really control this, that. I just have to, accept my body in all the aspects. But it is hard thinking when you have been leaner and that you're not, and that you couldn't sustain that. But then I also think you need to understand that it kind of wasn't sustainable for a reason sometimes. So something wasn't working properly, it maybe was too much, something, you need to find what's most sustainable, I think is a good word. Sustainable for your body. Sometimes your body, might not, for your whole mental health and everything, might not be meant to be that lean, or, yada yada, which I think people also in the bodybuilding community struggle with a lot as well. They're not going to be as lean as they were for their show, and then they're always going to be like, well, I probably could have just kept doing that and stayed that way. And it's like, no, like your body can't. I feel like with the ultra marathons, that's something that's not talked about a lot either, is when you are really doing that long distances, you're going to be leaner, and now not. So similar as in the bodybuilding community, kind of in that way.
Yeah. I know when I was training for a long distance run, that the 24 hours of isolation challenge, which is the longest run I've ever done. So it ended up being the total in 24 hours was, I think it was 50 point something miles. So it was like 80 kilometers. That was broken up.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I noticed a lot of changes in my body too. So I started to get like a lot thinner, like just actual thinner, not necessarily leaner, just like thinned out. Like it's impossible not to when you start increasing your aerobic, level by that much. And that was a change for me too. Like, okay, yeah, there's some other changes. Like I didn't even necessarily, that wasn't the goal at all. It was just like, oh, that's just a byproduct of what happens when you run for 2 hours a day, almost every day, right? Like that's gonna start to change your body, just like anything we do long term. So yeah, I think it's like, regardless of kind of where we're at, everyone can sort of have a different, their own outlook on themselves. And it's body dysmorphia is a really interesting thing. How do you guys think, Brandon, I don't want to assume you experience this, so I'll ask you first. Do you have any, Brandon, do you have any like self-perception, I don't know, we'll call it maybe like a discrepancy?
Sometimes I still see myself as my older self. Whether I like it or not, I can still picture who I was like growing up and how I was for like the first 25 years of my life. So sometimes that plays a part in my daily process. But like I said, I've kind of learned to grow with that guy and be who I am in the moment. And sometimes it's still hard. And it's still a process that everybody I think will go through, or everybody will experience once or twice. But I definitely deal with it.
Yeah. In terms of whether we call it body dysmorphia or whatever self-perception changes, how important, Brandon, do you feel community or mentors or coaches, what kind of role do they play in that for you?
The community definitely helps. For me, I was like, oh, I can tell like I've gained so much weight in like these photos, but like people would be like to me like, oh, you look no different. And then like I was talking to one of my friends, I'm like, oh, you look the same. And he's like, I've gained 40 pounds. And so like, I think it's more so like in our heads sometimes versus what other people see. So people definitely play a role, whether it can be good or bad. Never know. I always just kind of assume where whatever somebody else says, I can't control that. So I can only control my thoughts and actions and what's going on inside my head. So if someone plays a positive role in that, great. If someone tries to knock me down, then it is what it is. And so, but I do think coaches and mentors definitely pay a positive affirmation. And sometimes it's better than others, but yeah.
What do you think, Julia? How have you experienced like, leaning on community or having a mentor or coach through this process?
Honestly, not really. I learned a lot of how to do a lot of this on my own, like I said, and I haven't even really had many fitness friends or etc. But being a trainer now myself and helping others, I am a huge proponent of it, like that's amazing. Like people can always help you. You can always benefit from someone else's advice, someone else's aspect, outlet, unless they're pushing like really unhealthy narratives on you, which can happen, unfortunately, in the fitness community. But I just think it's always like you can always learn. But in my journey, I really like did a lot just by myself, which I think just was what it was. I kind of just like Googled a lot of stuff and etc. But Yeah, I think what I wanted to say, if I could go back now, and obviously I wouldn't change my journey, but if I could have like shortened the time and know what I know now, it would have been like so great. Like I went through like fad diets and being, you know, there's lots of like swaying info around that's, you know, do this, do that, and I just didn't actually like understand how science and fitness and everything actually worked. So it's easy to go on the wrong path. So if I could have stopped being on all those wrong paths, and I just had me now, or a trainer or someone saying, no, you actually just don't need to do all that, then I probably would have been in a faster route and yada yada. But sometimes I feel you have to go through the wrong things in order to know that that's not the right way anyway. I'm alluding to like I cut out all my carbs at a certain point. I did this, I followed this, and I was like, you should only do HIIT workouts. Like I've done all that, and if I just knew now that you just need to, you know, calories in, calories out, and just exercise, and yeah, like it's not so complex, I would have saved a lot of heartache and not eating bread as well. Right. Which I love.
Maybe not as much resilience though.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
So that, yeah, I know what you're saying. It would have been easier if someone sort of guided you, or if you knew that what you knew now. This kind of brings me to a cool question I'd like to ask you guys. Oh fuck, I know what I was gonna say before that. So you guys have read the 4 Agreements, or you're familiar with that book? You've heard of it? No? Anyway, it's a book. It's like other books. But what's really interesting about this, so this kind of like, you know, self-perception or leaning on community, you know, I think there's a lot that we can say that's important about, you know, other people being a part of our lives. And this isn't opposing that, but what's interesting about the whole kind of perception that we have of ourselves is, in one of the agreements, it's by a guy named Don Miguel Ruiz. It's a really good book, and it's a really easy read, and I would highly recommend it. I do a book review on it, which is basically just recommending you buy it because it's great. One of these agreements is don't take anything personally. I posted about it like last week, and what that means is, like, regardless of what someone says about you, what they say, it's more about them. So whether they say like, you know, Julia, you look friggin' super jacked, or like, Julia, you don't look very jacked. It's like, the tough part is, like, you know, we're all gonna hear that differently, but it's like, that's not what they say is not about you. It's about them. Right. Oh, yeah. And whether they say like, you know, Josh, you're so nice, or like, you're being a real asshole, it's like, that's still about them. And it's really tricky. I find, like, I've been exploring that more in like the emotional side and the mental side of just relationships, not like necessarily, you know, girlfriend, boyfriend, but friends and other things. It's really kind of it's a tough thing to navigate.
People usually project their own everything onto each other without knowing that they're doing it. So what they have anger or jealousy or animosity towards you, it's because they themselves are insecure or yada yada, and other aspects as well. I totally agree with what you're saying.
But it's even the positive stuff. It's like the negative stuff's easy because you're like, this person's just upset, or this person's just hurt, right? That's why they're yelling at me or whatever. But it's even the other stuff. So it kind of goes back, when I hear that, or when I reread that, I'm like, we just need to do the best we can at knowing ourselves, and like continue to like journal or go out for those long runs to be like, what am I going to do? Like, what is Julia going to do at kilometer 80? Like, what am I going to reach for? It's just me here. Like, I think that's one of the major benefits of doing something that's long distance, whatever that is. If it's 4 kilometers or if it's 140th and you've never run that far, it's like, you're getting into this territory where you don't know where your head's going to go. And I always find that really fascinating. Yeah. That's what I like about long endurance stuff. Yeah. What was I going to ask you? So, Brandon, I'll start with you, because how are you doing for time, by the way?
I might have to sneak out here soon.
Okay. Let me ask you one more question then, if that's cool.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is a buzzword, but inner child. So I won't use the buzzword inner child. I'll use the word, like, if you were, Brandon, if you were speaking to yourself as a child, Like what would you tell yourself knowing what you know now?
Definitely that you don't need to know everything to start. Um, you just have to start to be able to learn. And so that's kind of like the one thing that always held me back was like trying to find out everything about something before I started. And then like I would get in my head and then wouldn't start. And that's what took me so long to push back my weight loss journey, because I was too scared to go into the gym. I thought I had to know everything. I didn't want people to, kind of make fun of me for doing something. But then I kind of realized that everybody's at square one when they first start. And not all the greats were perfect at their own craft when they started, and they just kind of learned as they went. And every single time that you do something, it's another rep, and you can just build upon that. So that's probably the one thing I would tell myself.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. Julia, what do you
Yeah.
think?
Like an inner chat, what I would say. I guess, oh, I don't know. I've been through some crazy stuff from when I was little, but I would say you can't, like, I don't know, you can like just keep living. I guess when you're suicidal, and I know it's pretty dark, but you don't really see past into like, you don't really see the future for like what you are now. So like you don't really like think about even if you're going to make it to where I've made it today. So I think the main thing is, like, I even have it tattooed on me, just keep living. Like, just, there's life to live. I don't know, some days it seems like, when you're super dark, that there isn't any life worth it, or should I keep going on? And then the thing is, just keep going on. Just keep going, and keep living. And there's lots of things to look forward to, as cliche and cheesy as it is. Like, there's lots of things I've experienced now that I wouldn't have been able to if I did not keep living. So
Hmm. Do you think that plays out in any of your like long distance stuff?
I think so, yeah. I think as well, a lot of what drives me and my strength and stuff is because I was abused, right? So it almost makes me seem like if I was in that situation again, I would be able to hold my ground, if that makes sense. Instead of before, I was just like, I'm just weak. I feel like now I'd just be like, no, I'm strong. I can bench press this. I can run this. I can. So try me, kind of thing. And I hope I never actually have to fight someone back or whatever. But I think psychologically, it's like, okay, I'm capable of holding my own.
Yeah, for sure. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. You guys are sharing some really great stuff that about resilience, really. Like that's what a lot of it's about, right?
Yep.
We're saying like regardless of the journey, there's going to be ups and downs, and it's like, yeah, it's making me want to share more of the things that I'm not great at. And there's a lot of things I'm not very good at. And I'm totally cool with that. But you guys are, inspirational in the way that you're sharing these things that you're having hard times with. And it's great. And it's so relatable.
Yeah.
And one thing I've been really thinking about lately, and I think it's because of I'm living out here. I'm living alone now, which is a big adjustment for me. And I'm away from a lot of my friends and blah, 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 the normal kind of global stuff that's happening with pandemic and shutdowns and that. And I'm realizing, and this isn't something, I've created. It's just something that's I've sort of realized through what I'm ingesting with media, and what I'm thinking of is that, and it's like vulnerability is a real key to connection.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like, to your point, when you were hearing Brandon say something, you're like, wow, like, it's not that I'm happy you said you're having a hard time with, you're struggling with binge eating. It's just like him being vulnerable. It's like, yeah, I can relate to that in some way or not. And in my experience, not even relating, I'm just like, wow, man, this guy that I see as a great runner has challenges too.
Yep.
And it's like, cool. Okay. So we're all a little bit more human than I thought. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that that's
Exactly.
really, really important that you guys are sharing that.
Yeah, that's the great thing about podcasts and stuff like this, because on social media you just get the pictures or yada yada, and everyone just seems so polished. But
Yeah.
you really get to talking to people like on a basis like this, you're like, oh wow, yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you for allowing people to speak, and other cool people that I wouldn't have known before in your previous podcasts and everything. So it's a great platform that you're allowing for the fitness community, especially in, like, I know not everyone's from Peterborough, but in a smaller area like this, it's good to have fitness role models, I guess. I've always even looked up to you, Josh, just in the gym at House Fitness. Back when you worked there, just because, you know, you're someone who obviously knows what they're doing, and I value what you say, and it's just cool to know everyone kind of doing their own awesome stuff. So I just want to say thank you for what you do as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to have you guys on here, and it's making me want to. I've been thinking about this for a little while. One last question, Brandon. Maybe it's what do you have coming up what do you guys having coming up in the future that you think is going to be really challenging, or like what kind of cool, do you have any like ultras booked, or are you thinking about getting into something else that might be challenging for a race or a competition, or you just kind of laying low?
No, I have the Berlin Marathon in the fall. So so September, but usually training throughout the summer is the toughest for me because sun and me don't mix. Like, I can tan really well, but I can't really run in it. I just like completely melt.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a difficult thing for me to get there, because at least with like the other marathons I've done, like Toronto was in the spring, so I had like the cool winter to train for it, and then Chicago was a bit later in the fall, so I could start a bit later training wise.
Mm-hmm.
But this one's the earliest marathon that they have, like major marathon. So I think I'm gonna have to start in May, I think. So I'm gonna have all the summer months just to completely drain me, but it'll be worth it once I get there. And it's definitely something I'm looking forward to, and especially afterwards, because I hope Oktoberfest is going on this year.
Oh, nice.
And so yeah, it's right after it. So I'm like, this is like 97% of the reason I want to go experience Oktoberfest a bit.
Yeah, experience some different culture and food, and that's awesome.
Exactly.
That'll be a blast.
I'm looking forward to it. I was supposed to do it this year, but I got the vaccine the first week of training, and the Moderna hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was out for like 2 weeks. And then so I kind of just deferred it, and it worked out because Oktoberfest was canceled this year. So yeah, I know, exactly. So that's pretty much the only thing. My other race just got canceled, so kind of looking for something else to do in the spring. So other words, it
can be hard to kind of stay motivated and sort of focus when you're like, well, there is no real focus, right?
Yeah.
So exactly. I agree. It's kind of nice to book something or train for something. Makes it a little bit more digestible, I think.
Yeah, and like that's why I'd been getting out in the winter with Runner's Life, because this year I was like, I got to get back into shape. So I'm like, I'll come out, like we're doing hill sprints in -25, and I'm like, I don't want to be doing this, but like the race is upcoming. And then like the day after we were doing that -25, the race got canceled. I'm like, I could have stayed home last night.
Yeah. That's what happened. Yeah. Friggin' Dave. I don't know what these are called, but I want to drop his name and drop Runner's Life officially for like what do you call that when you do something live, when you're like, you tag a plug. There we go. I'm new, man. I want to plug Dave, man. I'm a big fan of Dave, whether you guys run here or not. Like, you know, this is about running, and I lived in Peterborough for a long time too. And Dave Dame's a beauty. I disagree with him about shoes a lot, which I think is actually just funny. But you know, he's a stand-up dude, and I really respect him. And he runs a great club, and he runs a great store, Runner's Life in Peterborough. And I'm not affiliated or endorsed or at all. I just think he's a great guy, and I'm really like grateful that he's keeping another community moving, because I think this is a really it just happens to be another really good, appropriate time for people to get out and connect and do something physical.
Exactly. He does a lot for the community behind the scenes too, like that people wouldn't even know about. So
Yeah.
it's Runner's Life's definitely a good community that brings people together, and we might all have different backgrounds, but we're all like-minded, and it's definitely a fun community to be a part of, and we wouldn't have it without him. So
Yeah.
gotta thank him for that.
Yeah. I'll give him some virtual hugs if he's a hugger.
Maybe after a few beers.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Julia, where do you have anything coming up, or are you setting any kind of mental goals or any competitions or anything like that?
No, not really. I mean, it's hard, like he said, to find a race. Once I started getting into running, like last lockdown, I never could have found a race either. So in the whole journey of my running, I've never really been able to find a race. I was looking into them and I'm like, you know, would really like to do a multi-day event where you like, you know, camp or whatever and stuff. Or even look into like a bike, swim, run thing, or even like a Tough Mudder. I'm into all like the obstacle coursey things too. Those are fun. Like those are like harder to find though, but just all those kind of challenges I'm into, as long as, you know, they're running. Right as of now, I don't really have anything because nothing is really running. But just to, I mean, I'm probably going to do a treadmill marathon thing at Good Life, and try and like raise money or something. I'll just do it there and, you know, something like that. But yeah, just be stronger and just, you know, keep healthy.
Yeah, sweet.
I feel like you'd be a good candidate to do the Hammer the Hammer. It's like the Road to Hope marathon in Hamilton, where it's like the first day you do the 5 and the 10K, and then I think the next day you do the half and then the full.
Oh, that's so cool. I've never heard of it. The Hammer. Okay.
Yeah. Or
Thank
the
you.
Disney one. Yeah, there's one in Disney that people do, and it's like the 5, 10, half, and full.
So over 2 days, you do one day you do 5 and 10, then the next day you do the other two.
I think the Disney one might be over 3 or 4 days.
Right.
And then I think the Hammer the Hammer.
The Disney one, I think you have to dress up and wear Disney stuff.
Everyone
does. Do you really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't think you have to, but most people do.
Yeah.
Would you want to be like the really serious runner decked out in gear and being like no costume? Like maybe not. Throw a goofy costume on and just go for it.
It was like the one year at the Toronto Marathon, some guy was trying to set a record running a chef's outfit, and he's carrying a pot, and like the last like 1K he passed me. I'm like, I just got beat by a chef. I'm like, what's going on here?
Carrying a pot.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I'd be so annoyed with that pot by the end of the run. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You'd be using pans for the rest of that year probably, or ordering Hello Fresh or something, right?
Yeah. I think he had the ladle too.
Really? So it's just like a single pot and then a ladle?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really annoying. You're right, man. That guy's mentally tough. That would just be annoying.
Yeah.
I'm all about incorporating like sort of nuisance stuff into training, but I've never added objects like that in.
No,
crazy.
Dude. I can't even run with a water bottle in my hand.
No, it's hard. It's literally hard.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. I think some of the long distance runs I did when I was training for a half, I was doing like some half marathon training, and I would literally put water. I was doing isogenics at that time, and there's like one of the supplements they have is beetroot juice, and it's in like a little plastic, almost like a vial. I think it's like 23 mil or like 46 milliliters. And I would be like, that's how much water I'm going to have in the next 2 hours. And like, at certain times you're okay with that. Not all the time. And I certainly don't like recommend that, but just like to your guys' points, right? Brandon, you did the half marathon pretty much with nothing. And like, it's still pretty cool what the body can do without like all the optimal stuff. And then it also makes you think like when you're doing things that you think are optimal, like, you know, that extra 1 to 5% makes a big difference too.
Yeah, exactly.
Having water. Yeah, it adds up.
Yeah.
I've had a really good time on here. Is there anything else you guys want to discuss before we jump off? Or I want to be mindful of your time, Brandon, too. So
yeah. Oh. Yeah, we touched on a lot of topics.
Yeah.
Yeah, Julia, how are you feeling about this? Is there anything else you want to add, or?
No, like I said, I'm just thankful for the opportunity.
Yeah.
There's lots to share, and always I'm always willing to talk to anyone. If I guess if anyone's listening to this and they want to reach out to me, I would say they're able to. If they need any advice or anything on any of the topics I touched on, always willing to help.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with people putting their own plugs in or plugging other people. Like I'm not the only trainer in this world. So I'll be including like any links that you want,
Yeah.
Julia, anything that you want, Brandon, like happy to for people to have more positive influence, because I know there's definitely some influence out there that's not so good. So
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, listen, guys, this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining. Thanks for being vulnerable, and like, yeah, let's keep going.